for our coverage tonight. Former Trump co-author Tony Schwartz from The Art of the Deal. His new book is Dealing with the Devil, My Mother, Trump, and Me. And a longtime Washington expert, Katty Kay, Washington anchor for BBC News. There is some fascinating new reporting I've been reading, especially from the Washington Post and Politico, with people really opening up in ways we haven't seen before. I want to read something here about people in Trump world basically trying to pin a lot of this on Jared Kushner. Politico reporting Kushner began to take on this hands-on role, demanding details on everything from finances to messaging when he was not, of course, in charge of the campaign technically. A Trump ally tells the paper the only constant in this campaign from day one to the very last day was Kushner, adding, if the president wins, Kushner deserves credit, but if he loses, Kushner deserves the blame. Katty, we've got several bite-sized pieces here, but one of the things we're seeing is these Trump advisors turning on themselves, sometimes on the record.
Yeah, I mean, what happens when you lose in a campaign is that very quickly you look for somebody else to blame, particularly when you have a president who himself has admitted that he finds losing very difficult, right? And this will come from the top. Donald Trump has yet to concede. He has yet to tell the American people that Joe Biden won fair and square. He's still searching for reasons that this might have been stolen from him. And that trickles down throughout the campaign. They're going to constantly be trying to find people to blame. I mean, I think one of the tenets of the Trump presidency that lots of people who have covered other presidencies have remarked on is that actually there are very few people around Donald Trump who are really loyal to him, who really like him, respect him, would go out of their way for him. Just look at the turnover in the White House. It is unprecedented, the amount of turnover that there has been. And he has had an ability to hire and fire people, and that doesn't do great things. Then when you're in a foxhole, you need somebody to help you get you out. There aren't very many people around, and it doesn't surprise me that we've got members of the campaign looking to blame other people.
It's a great point Katty makes. And Tony, it speaks to an accountable truth that might disagree with the narrative. The narrative is, he gets away with everything. And he gets away with some things, but not everything. And there is a view here that not only did he just lose, and he's the loser, I don't say that pejoratively, it's just he's the loser of this race. And there's a lot of people around showing that it didn't have to be this way. So they say he's both the loser and the cause of his own loss. And they work for him. We're seeing also in this reporting that Trump pollster back in July put together a 79-page exhaustive memo to warn the president. He had to change his tune to win. He had to reverse course. He had to encourage supporters to vote by mail rather than bashing it, to address the virus before trying to open the economy, to mandate face masks rather than mocking them. Each of those being straightforward things from the rather intense Politico headline, "This effing virus," quote unquote. But these are Trump's people saying it's his fault.
Well, I'm going to go with Katty and say that blame is what goes around after you lose in an election like this. And Trump has to blame because it's intolerable to him to think of himself as anything but a winner. The only option is loser, and loser is to be obliterated, to not exist. So he will never concede that he lost. But, I was reading Cast, Isabel Wilkerson's extraordinary new book today, and I read a quote that seems so relevant to this moment. She's talking about dehumanization, and she says it's a war against truth. To dehumanize another human being is not merely to declare that someone is not human, and it does not happen by accident. It's a process. It's a programming. It takes energy and reinforcement to deny what is self-evident in another member of one's species. And it made me think, Ari, that what we need right now, and I do think Biden is maybe ideally positioned to do this, is we need to rehumanize, not demonize. We need to rehumanize America and Americans, because the American affliction, mostly unspoken, is the fear of not being good enough. And the need, as a result, to feel better than by dehumanizing and demonizing others. But Trump may be the first leader ever to do that to supporters and detractors alike. If you think about COVID, what he did to all of us in his handling of it is to make us sick and actually to be responsible for the death of what is now going to be almost 250,000 lives. This is a man who earned his loss.
Well, and as you say, that approach of, it's important you mentioned it, demeaning many, but also his own people. I mean, we saw that in these bizarre closing rallies, Caddy, where he was saying, I didn't want to be here. I wouldn't come back here, but for my own political survival's on the line. And there was a contrast to, again, I want to reach into some of this brand new reporting, this weekend reporting after the loss. Biden was criticized at times over how they didn't do in-person campaigning. His campaign telling the Washington Post it was an easy decision, a senior advisor adding, only in Trump's America does the fact that we listen to medical experts become some kind of shocking political decision. Caddy?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have spoken to Democratic candidates during the course of this campaign in states like Georgia and Florida when I was traveling down there, who did express frustration with the fact that they couldn't do in-person events, that there wasn't more door knocking in person over the course of the summer when perhaps people felt a little bit more comfortable because the virus seemed to be receding a little bit. So it's fair to say that there was frustration. And it's also possible that we will look back, once we have all of the numbers, and it's early days, we don't have all of the data from this campaign, and look at those rallies of President Trump's and find that they did actually drive out turnout. Something accounts for the fact that there was a big turnout for President Trump on election day. And, some of it's extraordinary. You look at the 936 counties in America that have the highest cases of the 376 counties in America that have the highest cases of coronavirus. 93% of them voted for Donald Trump. So there were plenty of people out there around this country who saw the coronavirus in their communities. I mean, some of these counties are small. People who has the coronavirus, and yet Donald Trump was winning those counties in a landslide. So the impact of the coronavirus, I think, on this campaign is one that we will still have to continue to study, but it's a more nuanced, mixed, confusing picture, perhaps, than we might have thought a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I appreciate, as always, your rigorous approach to the underlying data, Caddy. And when I was poring over the actual vote tallies, I noticed that seniors said they prefer Trump's handling of the coronavirus to Biden. So either they do, or they just prefer Trump and then claim to support him on any random topic. People can debate out what those numbers mean, Tony, but they don't suggest the at-risk pool, the senior pool, had some sea change on that. The last thing I want to get Tony on here is Donald Trump hasn't spoken in 2 days. When will we hear from him? How will he process this loss as everyone abandons him?
So I don't think he's able to process the loss. I don't think, as I said earlier, I don't think there's any chance that he will say that he lost. He has turned defeat into, or he has portrayed defeat as victory a million times. We're rounding the corner on COVID, if you're listening to Donald Trump, as we hit record numbers. So I don't expect him to do that. What I expect him to do is to fashion a way of explaining this loss by doing what we've been talking about throughout this segment, which is by blaming others. Jared will come high in that. Almost everybody around him is going to get it, because at this point, Trump is incredibly isolated. He has basically reduced his circle to almost non-existent. So you can expect Trump to attack anybody. I mean, maybe his three oldest kids are an exception. But even they could become big. The one thing Donald Trump can't do is be the person who is responsible for this. Really fascinating from two of our experts, Tony and Caddy. I want to thank you. Up ahead in our special coverage, the actress and activist Eva Longoria is here on this historic Biden-Harris win. She, of course, was a big part of this on that convention stage. But up next is my special report on